Welcome back to this episode of Words with the Wise. I'm Jess, and I'm here with Chief Rice, or Dave, with the Winchester, New Hampshire Police Department. He's been in service for 27 years. Welcome to the show, Dave.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. All right, let's talk about this. This is kind of interesting. We were talking about offline how Chief wasn't really part of your plan, but here you are. Let's imagine you're going into your retirement ceremony. Looking back, what's more important to you? That people remember your accomplishments as chief, or that they remember how you made them feel?
I think the second one. So I'm still in contact with my previous agency, and I left because it was kind of a toxic situation. But a lot of the people that were patrolmen when I started, like, are now the lieutenants and the sergeants. And it's just kind of rewarding. I'm not going to say I'm totally responsible for their success, but it's like he was on my shift, she was on my shift. And like all of most of the people that started on my shift when I was brand new are now the middle managers in that agency. And that's kind of something rewarding for me.
Yeah, definitely. And every leader can probably name one person who's inspired them, and probably one person or maybe more that taught them what not to do. Who were those people for you?
So one of my things is that take when I do FTO, I used to do FTO, is you're going to have a whole bunch of FTOs, you're going to have a bunch of supervisors. Take what you can from them, what's positive. Don't do the things you're not comfortable with. Don't try to be anybody else. Be yourself, but you're going to see examples of things you can use. I definitely had some very good supervisors that sometimes did some stuff looking back going, yeah, that wasn't the best thing. But I can remember the first chief that hired me. My wife was 8.5 months pregnant. I was a reserve officer, doing loss prevention at a department store. And I came in to do a detail, and one of the lieutenants is like, hey, would you like a full-time job? And I'm like, I would love a full-time job. So I'm like, just so you know, my wife is going to have a baby in a month. And he's like, hold that thought. And I'm like, I just lost the job. So Chief, he had been there for 20 something years. And he was a guy a lot of people really had some negative feelings about. But he calls me in and says, hey, listen, I understand your wife's pregnant. I'm going to offer you the job. Um, when she has the baby, just tell me, we'll give you time off. And then he's like, just don't F me. And I'm like, okay, yes, chief. So I took, I don't know, a week. I had no sick time. He never came looking for it. Talk about welcome to my agency. We value you as an employee.
Yeah. And
Um,
that's before I think a lot of this stuff started shifting and people
yeah,
started recognizing we needed more of that. What
and that
what
was
year was that?
1999.
Yeah.
He was a mixed bag like everybody else. He was one of the people, like, I remember when it was the millennial, and on January 1st, they're like, the world is coming to an end. Literally, the police, everybody was working. My patrol area was like 4 blocks. He came in, he put on a huge spread for everybody, fed everybody. He would have events where he would come out and do barbecue. He would bring food in on holidays. And that's something that the little things doesn't cost you a lot.
Right. We talk
You
about this.
probably build the town, but talk about like giving somebody a membership. You are part of us and we care about you.
How long were you with that team?
I was in Greenfield for 23 years.
See, you stayed.
Yeah.
That shows like when you invest in your people,
Yeah.
it turns into that long-term relationship.
Yeah. He was there for what? I think he was there for 6 years when I was there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. And I also had mentioned what were some of the things that you've learned not to do from previous leaders. We don't need to mention names.
So I mean, there are some supervisors that are so centered on discipline that as soon as somebody does something wrong, you slap them in the hand. And you're looking for that. I mean, if you people are going to make mistakes. I mean, a lot of times, sometimes positive discipline, educational discipline is the best thing. Um, so I'm a big, when I was a patrol sergeant, my staff, I actually had more employees as a patrol sergeant than I have in my police department. So my biggest thing was if I was going to reprimand somebody, I would like to do like window to window counseling. Hey, meet me in this parking lot. And we would discuss it. Hey, listen, you really screwed this up. Don't do it again. This is what I need you to. This is our standard. And also, you need to model the behavior. If you're expecting something, you can't, hey, I'm the chief, I'm the sergeant, I can get away with it. But then you expect other people to follow that model, and it doesn't work.
Yeah, lead by example.
Yeah. And because your employees they have a lot of your success is based on them. I had a peer who was a very big informal leader for both the positive and negative. I do not remember what the supervisor did, but she organized an entire shift to not talk to the sergeant for an entire 6-month shift bid. So if the officers did not have to talk to him, they would walk out of roll call, have no outside conversation with him, and stay out of the thing for an entire 6 months.
Another thing that we had talked about that you mentioned I thought was interesting is defining success beyond metrics. And numbers, there's always proof in numbers. However, it's not always the answer to success is whether it's lowering the crime metrics in the community or.
Right. There are people, when I started in law enforcement as a junior guy, go write tickets.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I was unfortunately that guy. For the first 3-4 years of my career, I wrote tickets to everybody. Stopped everything, every petty little thing, fog lights, the tint, everything like that. I made no friends. I still can probably I'll run into people once in a while. You wrote me a ticket for this petty little thing. For a lot of people, that's maybe the only interaction they have with their police agency is that you get stopped for speeding. Well, the officer was a jerk to me. How do they feel about that agency? As opposed to the officer walked up, said, hey, you were speeding. And some people, the fact that they get stopped by the police is punishment enough. They're probably not going to do it again. And that's kind of the way I teach it. I'm not looking for money tickets. I'm looking for, if I send somebody out to say, hey, we have a speeding problem here, stop cars and educate people. They may not know what the speed limit is, so give them a positive interaction with people if you can. There are some people that 100% deserve and earn a money ticket, but don't lead with that. And I think that's one of the problems. At least I think we're changing to some extent in some agencies, but there are still agencies out there that is the thing. I want you to go write money tickets.
Do you remember the first time you pulled someone over and what that felt like for you?
I actually kind of do. And the funny thing is, this is what a jerk I was. I got voted, I have a certificate at home, most likely to write my mother a speeding ticket. That's the person I was. I remember it was like scary and everything like that. So in Massachusetts, you can go to Reserve Academy, which is 120 hours. They give you enough information to be dangerous to yourself and others. They give you a little bit of, this and that. So you can write traffic tickets. So I worked as a full-time officer for 8 months under a reserve certification. Mm-hmm. And it was like, I look back sometimes and how I didn't get myself sued. Sometimes I did some stupid stuff. But interestingly, when I went to the full-time academy, a lot of my peers did not have a lot of experience. So in Massachusetts, what do? They do something called the patrol procedure, applied patrol procedures, which is scenarios. Like, so you have to go do a traffic stop. And me and like three other people that worked before were teaching other people because they did a decent job teaching it, but we were going over it in like the ready area and everything like that. And I was kind of the more experienced person, which was weird.
Okay, so looking back, you remember like some of the first tickets or the first times you pulled people over in those tickets that you
Oh
gave.
yeah,
What lessons did you learn from that, and how did you get to where you are now?
it took me a good amount of time to um, basically come to the conclusion that I was pissing people off, that I didn't know everything. I mean, I was a little bit older. I mean, I had gone to college once, failed, because I like to go to Boston Red Sox games as opposed to going to class. So Boston University asked me not to come back after 2.5 years with a grade point average of 1.99. So I ended up joining the military. I did that. So I was older and thought I was more mature. Probably not as much as I thought I was. So I think it was some other officers are like, dude, you need to chill out. But it took me, I was hard headed and it took me a little while to come up with that. But again, it's, you have supervisors, but you have also your field training officers, other mentors. There are people at every law enforcement agency that have no intention of ever being a supervisor, but they are probably some of the most important people in that agency because they set the tone. As a chief, a sergeant, I can say this is what I expect. But if you have a group of people like, yeah, the chief's full of it, this is how we really do it. But if those people are, hey, you need to chill out, and do it this way. I have a former subordinate that's now a sergeant that I was talking to a couple of weeks ago, and he was kind of my informal leader on my shift for like 3 years. That he would come back and say, hey, so and so isn't on the right track. I'm going to deal with it. Or I'd be like, hey, this is going on. We don't necessarily want to make it official. Can you try to address it?
Yeah. And you did end up going back. So even you've had these lessons that you've had to learn on your own and
Yeah.
through your own mistakes looking back, but you ended up going back and getting your master's in criminal justice.
Yep.
What do you think it took to get there? Because people can tell you sometimes all day long, like, you have to do this, you
Yeah.
have to do this. But until you make the mistakes on your own,
Yeah.
you may not learn
Oh,
from
yeah.
it.
So I went back between the time I started in Greenfield and I got out of the Army. I went to UMass Amherst and got a bachelor's degree, got on in Greenfield. And my mother wanted to be a school teacher. Haven't quite worked out. I'm literally the black sheep of my family. I mean, my father worked for NASA. Both of my brothers work in finance. So I'm kind of the black sheep. So I was like, I always did. I mean, I was a lifeguard. I taught swimming. I did stuff. I worked at Boy Scout camp teaching and stuff like that. So I always wanted to teach. So I'm like, I want to teach at college. So I got to go get my master's. So in Massachusetts, they have this thing called Quinn Bill that will give you extra money if you have a degree. So I was getting 20% of my salary for having a bachelor's degree. I'm like, I can get five more. There are some programs that are taught by cops for cops,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
the quality of those educations is questionable in my mind. They don't have to do master's thesis or anything like that. So I chose one of the few schools that really wasn't based on that. Did a master's thesis, actually got an award for it. I actually enjoy doing it. Um, and I think it's helped me. I teach at college. I've been at a community college for 5 or 6 years. And it helps me to kind of form the next generation and say, hey, listen, this is what we need in law enforcement. We don't need the hammer guys. We need people that care about people. We need compassionate people. We need people that maybe have degrees in like social work.
How do you teach that empathy? Because empathy is a huge part of what you do day to day.
I'm not sure if you can teach it. I think it's more of a selection thing that you need to when you're reviewing new employees.
Mhm.
That you need to find those people, and you need a mix of people. I mean, you need one or two of the, we'll call them the hammers, just, but you also need that mix of people, and you have to figure out a way to get them to work together.
Yes. Okay.
Which is the hard part.
Not how do you teach that? How do you identify the empathy and the skills that are needed?
I think you sit down and talk with people. You look deep into their background. What else have they done? I mean, yeah, they've got a degree. They may have been in the military, but what do they do in their off time? How do they deal with other people?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Again, finding the right people also. So my agency, we're not at the high end of the salary scale. So there are some people that probably are never going to apply here. So I may not be able to get the best person because I don't have the money to offer them. Because, I mean, good climate helps a lot. I mean, I think that's why a lot of my employees are here, is they like working here. We have fun. They know that I'm available. Hey, one of my officers last week is, hey, my kids have a school event. You mind if I come in late?
Yeah.
Like, sure, I'll hang out. So, I mean, that means that I'm working their shift, but it doesn't cost me anything.
Right.
So it's 3 hours of my time. My kids are grown, so it's not like I'm going home to, it's just a missing part of dinner.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, it's a balance. It's a give and take too. You're not giving all of that.
Right.
It's every now and then. And it sounds like if you could build a team where people are covering for each other, that
and you
adds
also
to the
have,
culture.
I mean, the big thing is there were some other chiefs that are in my position about the same, and they never go out in the street, and they never put a duty belt on. They don't stop cars. They don't go to calls. I mean, if something major happens, they'll roll out, but they're not out there routinely. And I think modeling what you expect and be willing to take the crap calls, because when you ask somebody to go do something, they're like, but the chief did it last week.
Yeah.
That was one of my big guilt things when I was a sergeant. Someone would complain, I don't want to go on the call, and they're grumbling, and I just walk out. And next thing I know, I'm on their call.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you said you had a tough call even just yesterday.
Yeah, we had again, small agency. I generally do not, I've lucked out. My second in charge is a former chief. So I know mostly on weekends that I've got somebody responsible. I've got a relatively young agency, but in the morning, you get a phone call me immediately. I'm like, this is not going to be a good call. And I mean, we had a shooting and we were able to resolve it fairly quickly, get the person into custody and everything like that. But again, I worked a whole bunch of hours on a Sunday.
Yeah.
And as a salaried employee, I don't get overtime.
Right.
So do I take time off and not get other things done? Do I just work 60 hours in a week? And that's kind of the balance. Because your name's on the masthead.
Yeah. It's important.
So whatever the product is, you own.
Mm-hmm. To plan the PTO, to have your hobbies outside of work, to keep you going. It's been kind of a trend that I've been hearing.
Yeah.
To keep those things going. And you often say that people are the department's greatest asset. So it's easy to say, but what would you say?
I think my people are my greatest asset. I mean, I can come up with a plan, but somebody has to execute. I can't be here 24 hours a day, and I have to trust the people to do what my expectations are. I mean, I can write every policy on the face of the earth, and people are going to try to get away with stuff. So if they know that I may show up, I mean, as a patrol sergeant, I had one time had some very young officers that thought they were the greatest. They'd watched way too many all those from the South, the drug interdiction stuff, where they walk up. It's like, here's your traffic ticket. Mind if we tear your car apart? Not legal in Massachusetts, but they thought they were the greatest thing on drug interdiction. And, they were kind of pushing the envelope. So I created the 7-minute rule. If more than 2 of them were on the same traffic stop, I would show up after 7 minutes. And basically, I'm like, what do you guys got? Oh, we got this, sir. We got this. It's like, yeah, you don't get anything left. Cut the guy loose. And this came about one day. I drove past a traffic stop, and it was 3 of my guys and a Mass State Trooper. There's a guy handcuffed sitting on the push bumper of a cruiser, and all I see is 4 butts. They're searching the car. Guy under arrest. No one's watching. So I put him in my car and sat down in the push bumper. 7 minutes later, one of them looks up and goes, you guys missing something?
I was going to ask, how did you come up with 7 minutes? There it is.
That's where 7 is. And the thing is that forced them to get better because they were trying to beat me. That they learned law, increased their technology, their technique. And I mean, one of them is on a specialized unit with the Mass State Police. One of them is a lieutenant now. And the trooper that was kind of part of that group is one of the drug interdiction guys for the Mass State Police. So they learned their craft.
Yeah.
Again, didn't cost me anything. And the fact that your supervisor is going to show up at any time kind of goes, okay, but you have to be light about it. And like I had a supervisor that literally would like stand there with his arms crossed, like he was judging you. And a lot of times it's just like, hey guys, you need any help? What do you need? I'm not here to take over, but do you need help? Do you need something? And they knew that I did that a lot.
It's the way you approach it too. Like you said, if you're standing there closed off.
It's an art form. I probably maybe didn't do it as well at the beginning, but after 12 years, I had it down.
Yes. So let's imagine an officer comes in, they're super excited, super motivated, ready to go, but then they enter into an environment where there's toxic leadership.
Oh, yeah.
How do you overcome that?
So the problem, and I experienced that. Towards the end of my career, I left because I prepared to be a supervisor and I taught leadership at the academy. I had a master's degree. I did a lot of reading. And I thought I was the best candidate. And deputy chief is like, why are you trying so hard? The chief's going to promote this person who didn't do a lot and hadn't passed the civil service test, but we got out of civil service. So I was kind of negative for the last thing. And I was beginning to hate who I was. So when he finally said that to me, I went back to my office because I was getting to the point where I could retire. I was going to turn 55. So I'm like, dear chief, January 19, 2023, my last day. I'm going to retire. But it was something I'm glad. There are days I'm like, I wish I could. I might be chief there. Because the people that were the part of the negativity got themselves shown the door due to a couple of lawsuits and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But so maybe I'm going to be chief there, but I never wanted to be chief. I wanted to be a lieutenant. So I don't know if I handled it well. But it worked for me. It was a good choice for me. But one supervisor, one peer can say, hey, look, this is not who we are. I understand management is doing this, but we need to be better. And I think that is kind of happened where after I left, and maybe me leaving was part of the solution, but a lot of the younger officers are now supervisors and have started to bring in new ideas, new energy to that organization.
Yeah. And then fast forward from there. So you were thinking you're going to retire, and now here you are.
Yeah, I retired. So I retired. I didn't retire. So I literally, my last day was on a Friday. The following Monday, I went to the police academy and taught for 3 straight days. So I was working a lot. So Winchester came along. They had a guy who was kind of looking around. How exactly he found me, I don't know. And it's like, hey, how'd you like to be chief? And Winchester's had some problems in the past. The most recent things, they had an officer that made a very, very bad choice and decided to have a relationship with somebody he arrested, which caused a lot of problems. And when I showed up, the agency was down to two full-time officers, one who was on, had an injury on leave, and a part-time officer. Um, and we've been able to rebuild the agency. I'm still down two officers, but I have six full-time officers and two part-time officers. I've instituted a school resource officer program in the elementary school. I found a retired officer from another community who was working as so in New Hampshire, they don't have you don't have to be a school nurse, you can be a paramedic.
Okay.
So their health officer was still a certified police officer working part-time.
Oh,
So I'm
wow.
like, how'd you like so we found him and made him the school resource officer, and is one of the best choices we made. He's awesome. The kids love him, the parents love him. We just did he organized a ride your bike to school day.
Oh, nice.
So we last Wednesday we met down at the VFW. The fire department brought a fire truck to block the road, and we all rode to the school together.
That's such a great idea.
And it ended up on Facebook, and people like loved it. Got a lot of comments.
Yeah, you mentioned getting out in the community and educating, and
Yeah,
not just being the officer that's writing tickets, and
right.
and I think that's a great way to incorporate that and bring the community together.
Yeah, and it starts from the top. If
Hmm.
the chief is accessible, and as we were talking offline, is that you're like, oh, you're chief. It's like, a lot of times it's like, I'm just Dave. We went to do a tour. We have a big manufacturing. So everyone is introducing us. I'm the last person. My captain's like, I'm captain. And I'm like, hey, I'm Dave. And so, and they're like, you're the chief. I'm like, yeah, I'm the chief. But to some extent, if you don't know I'm the chief by the way I'm acting, I'm probably not doing my job. I know some people are like, coffee with cops or cocoa with the popo or something like
Yeah.
that.
I grew up in a
I,
small town, and we used to do like
and,
pancake breakfasts and,
yeah,
the little small town
yeah,
parades, those sort
yeah.
of
And
things
you go
where,
out. It can be, you go down to the corner grocery store,
hmm
whatever convenience store, and just talk to people.
hmm
You go to the farmer's market or whatever.
yeah. Because
We
at the
have
end
an
of the day,
interesting
you're
thing in
human.
Winchester called Pickle Fest.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, in the fall. And I was here for what, a month, and they're like, oh, we're going to go to Pickle Fest this weekend. I'm like, you have a what? Oh, yeah, it's Pickle Fest. They give out pickles and everything, pickle steam, they have pickled beer, they have pickled ice cream. And I was like, this is a little different. And I went, it's great.
What was your
The
favorite
first
pickled
year I was like,
item?
yeah, I walked around and introduced myself, and every year I just go there and hang out and talk to people. And it's great. I meet all the people in the community and
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, being a small agency, I'm sure it's hard to offer different, what do you do for wellness programs, and is there anything
we're
specific?
that's kind of a moving target. I've got luckily a lot of my patrolmen are really into working out. Some of them probably work out too much, but one good thing in New Hampshire has a 3-year physical fitness standard.
Okay.
So you have to do the Cooper standards PT. You got to do the push-ups, the sit-ups, and a run. And you have the option of doing a bike if you can get a doctor say, hey, you shouldn't be running. The bike is one of those dynamo bikes with the fan on it, which is I actually thought I was going to die when I did it. New Hampshire does not have the greatest, like what they say. The guy that gave it to me said, and he'd been doing it for someone, he's like, I've had 3 people pass this out of like 20 or 30.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It was, I think one of the reasons people are failing is they're not used to biking.
Mhm.
I'm kind of a heavy guy, but I like to mountain bike, and my knees are garbage from the military, so I don't run anymore.
Yeah.
But I do a lot of mountain biking. I mean, not mountains, but I do trails and everything like that. So I'm used to biking. And I think a lot of people like, I'm just going to do the bike as opposed to run, and they don't have biking experience. And it's like you have to go faster every 2 minutes.
Mm,
So you're flying by the end.
yeah. Well, that's finding what you like the best. And I
Yeah,
feel like that's what can keep you motivated. If you're feeling like, okay, I have to run this amount every single day
right.
and you don't like running,
Yeah.
like try to find an alternative.
Yeah. I'm a big believer. Like, so Massachusetts does essentially an obstacle course. It's job related. You
Okay.
start in like a simulated police car and you run over a wall, you climb through a window, you drag a dummy, you move hands together, simulate handcuffing, you do a finger thing to simulate shooting a gun. And so it's all work related. I mean, I think that that would probably be better
Mm-hmm.
and probably more holistic,
Yeah. Different
but
little
that's what
sprints.
a
You're
lot
not
of
running a
places
mile a
are
day. You know,
tied into
you're
that Cooper standards, even though it's like a 1970s thing, it's still here.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I think that we would probably do better to go to more of a holistic job related type thing.
Hmm. Yeah. And what we talked, I think it was we were offline when we were talking about the isolation part of the job. And sometimes you may
Yes.
feel a little isolated. How do
So
you,
it's,
yeah.
you would think that there are 200 and something chiefs in New Hampshire, is that it would be a very cohesive group and everyone would go play golf and like get along. But to some extent, we're in competition for bodies because there are X amount of people in the market, and we're also fighting over the officers we have. Um, is that somebody may not like their agency. I haven't, one of the officers I recently hired, he's in the National Guard. So he has to do every 4 weeks, he has drill. He's off for 2 weeks in the summer. That agency really didn't like that, and there was some pressure on that. Most of my officers are all veterans, so it's something we get. I mean, I was in the National Guard after I was in active duty. My captain was the National Guard. So it's something we're more accepting of. I mean, is it a pain in the butt sometimes that somebody's in a small agency, you just can't give somebody the day off? Somebody has to work because there are times when that person is the only person scheduled to work.
Right.
And I'm already looking at August, when he's on his 2 week National Guard, going, I'm going to be working a lot of patrol.
Yeah.
But that's what brought him to our agency, and it's something I support. And if you, again, support your guys, I'm probably about middle as far as salary. Town doesn't have the money to give bonuses like some other agencies do. So I think that that's kind of why some of the people still work here, are those little things.
Yeah. The little things add up to the big things. And that's
Yeah.
what can keep people a long run.
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
said earlier, like when you started your career and your wife was 8.5 months pregnant.
Yeah.
And you were able to get the time off.
Yeah. That was a loyalty thing with him. I mean, obviously, there were things that I was like, yeah, probably weren't the greatest, but he was also a very old school guy.
Well, nothing's ever going to be perfect.
No supervisor is perfect. I mean,
Right. Right. Okay. And then to end, what words of wisdom do you have for the younger generation?
um, realize that coming into this job is going to change you. You are going to experience things that are going to get into your head and will rent space for the rest of your life. And it may not be the things you expect. It may be the small things. It may be like one of the first things that I know rents space in my head is a 6-month-old that died of SIDS right around Christmas. If I think about it too much, I literally can I can see myself in that in that room. I can see the Christmas tree. I can see the Christmas presents. To some extent, I can smell the smells. And it's one of those things that bothers me. And partially one of the reasons why it bothers me is how my agency handled it. So the ambulance in our community was really, really good. But they were called, so we had no ambulance. The fire department was there. The fire guys were like, hey, we're going to take this kid in the ambulance. And I'm like, no, you guys continue doing CPR. I'll drive. So we put the firefighters in the back of the police car. We rushed them to the hospital. We had a policy that you're not supposed to transport people without permission from your supervisor. So I called up my supervisor. I'm like, Dan, I violated policy. If you want to write me up, feel free, because I'll do it again. And he's like, don't be stupid. I would do the same thing. So I found out later the child died. The next day, I'm at home kind of moping around and really sad because I had young kids. Another sergeant calls me just to tell me that I'm lucky I was working for Dan, because he would have suspended me for violating policy. I'm like, oh my God. And I tell people that story and they're like, really? I'm like, yep. And I mean, how does that, I mean, probably be still something would bother me, but that made it worse. And agencies don't need to do those things. You need to help each other. And it may be not, hey, I need to go to the sergeant, I need to go to the chief. It could be, hey, go to your peer. Hey, listen, this is bothering me. I mean, having access to clinicians or just somebody to talk to. One of the things I do, because a couple of things that have happened to me, is we have a CISM team, which is post-traumatic stress debriefings. So I do those because it helps me. Then I'll go out and try to help other people. I do one-on-ones, and it's one of kind of the things how I keep those things at bay. And I realize they bother me, and sometimes situations, and it's something I'm very forthcoming with the people I work with. I'm like, hey, these things have happened to me. If you need somebody to talk to, come talk to me. Try to get, because talking about those things has had a lot of stigma. And to some extent, in some agencies, you just need to suck it up, buttercup. And there are still those agencies. And one of the things in New Hampshire does not have those things as readily available, especially because we are in the southwest corner, and all of the industry in big cities are over to the east of us, that a lot of those resources are not as readily available. So, yeah, I mean, learn those things and learn how that affects you and how it affects your family. Because, I mean, those things will affect your family. I'm very, very lucky in the fact that my wife, who's a nurse, has also been a firefighter for 20 years. And I can go home and have a pretty frank conversation that a lot of my peers are like, I could never talk to my wife about that because she would never understand. Or female peer, hey, I could never talk to my boyfriend, my husband. They just wouldn't get it. I can go home and say that. And so the weird thing is, so my son is now a firefighter. And so I come home one day and he's like, you hear what happened, Dad? I'm like, no. So they went out, did CPR, and they declared the person dead in the driveway. So I'm like, so how do you handle that? How are you feeling about that? And he's like, Dad, it was going to have to happen. And I'm glad I got it over with. I mean, he understands that, there is going to be something that's going to get to him at some point. He hasn't got to that point. You don't realize how you're affecting your family because you have those conversations and it's normal for you. And then you don't realize the effect you're having on your kids. Yes. I think my kids are both very, very hardened children. My daughter works in cancer research. And so one day she sends me a picture of a page. I'm like, what's up with this, Megan? And she's like, well, one of the things we offer is if the patient dies, if they allow us to do a autopsy, that we'll pay for the funeral. And so someone needs to be on call to do this on the weekend. And I'm like, so how do you feel about that, Megan? And she's like, Dad, I work in cancer research and I grew up in our house. And I'm like, oh my God, I've ruined my children. But at least I think maybe they are better armored against the world. Because, I mean, there were things we kept from them, obviously, but just the normal conversations that the world is a bad place sometimes, and you have to work through it.
I think you've equipped them with some tools that
Yeah.
maybe a parent in another profession would not have been able to.
Yeah, because I mean, first responders, I mean, deal with hundreds of things in their career where other people may deal with one or two traumatic incidents.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is, I mean, I think that they're more willing to talk about it because we talked about those things. Those are, and you know, I probably some of the conversations over Thanksgiving dinner probably horrified some of my relatives.
Conversations are necessary, to an extent,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
and thank you so much for sharing your story.
Yeah. It was enjoyable.
Yeah, great. Well, we appreciate you having you.